All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Sunday, September 12th, 2021. This is a quick morning update on what is now Tropical Storm Nicolas. The storm formed this morning in the Gulf of Mexico. This was in S94L we've been talking about for several days. The system has organized further. National Hurricane Center has initiated advisories, so we have a new tropical storm, new watches and warnings, and we're going to quickly run through this one before we go through the rest of your tropical update later tonight. So again, Nicholas forming this morning, circulation center somewhere down here in the southern Gulf of Mexico up under the stronger thunderstorm activity. Hurricane hunters flew the storm this morning, found a close circulation, and found winds over 40 miles an hour. So that's where the initial advisory has been set. A very broad area of disturbed weather, a lot of deep tropical moisture associated with this. There's a broad circulation in general. So the first thing we have to note is that there is a lot of tropical moisture with this storm. You have a concentration of winds, which is making it an organized tropical storm somewhere here, but there's a broader cyclonic circulation that extends even off the screen here, and this has been turning a lot of moisture for days. So rainfall storms like this are very big rainfall threats. That's the very first thing you have to know about this storm is, it's not just some weak tropical wave that moves through and has to start pulling all of its moisture up itself. This is a big, messy, broad storm, and you can see there's already showers and storms advancing on parts of Texas and Louisiana, and this is where we think the highest rainfall threat is going to be over the next several days. So let's go ahead and look at the National Hurricane Center's forecast advisory. First advisory out, maximum sustained winds again are 40 miles an hour. The movements to the north-northwest at 13 miles an hour. First thing we talked about last night was where the system exactly formed. Did it form way down here? Did it form way up here? The answer is somewhere in the middle, but it is decently far offshore. So the storm's going to move to the north-northwest for the next day or so, and it's going to gradually try to turn back to north. Now, again, this cone shows any potential areas that the eye could pass over. And the rub here this morning is if the storm takes a more westerly path and goes onshore sooner, you're talking about a weaker storm. Now, the rainfall threat happens regardless of this thing's a tropical depression, a nothing, or a strong storm or a hurricane. No matter what the gamut is, heavy rainfall is coming and is the biggest threat with this storm. The rub kind of becomes, are we also going to have a wind and surge threat? And that answer is basically if the storm takes a more leftward side of the path, a more westward side of the path, comes in near Brownsville or somewhere around the Rio Grande region, then we're talking about a fairly weak storm that's not going to be able to really intensify. However, this stay is just on this track. We're talking about a strong tropical storm. The first Hurricane Center's official forecast is for a landfall sometime early on Tuesday with about a 65-mile-an-hour tropical storm coming ashore. Tropical storm warnings are currently up to from the Texas-Mexico border, actually somewhat extending in northern Mexico, up to Corpus Christi, and then tropical storm watches from Corpus Christi to essentially Houston. Now, those Christi to Houston will become warnings pretty soon, probably tonight or early tomorrow. But the rub here again is if the storm takes a more easterly path and comes up more towards here, you're talking about the potential for a hurricane. And that is really the question today is how long this thing stays offshore, because otherwise the environment is pretty favorable. You have an upper level trough that's backing up, higher heights are building in a loft over the storm, so that wind shear is still affecting the storm for a little while, but you can tell how this wind is starting to back away, and over the course of the next couple of days, this upper trough is going to continue to pull away. High pressure is going to expand over the storm, and then the only wind shear is probably going to be up closer to the edge of the high pressure cell. But you can see outflow quickly racing off to the north, and beautiful outflow away from the storm in most quadrants, only flat on one side. So the storm has got a good bit going for it. It's a very warm water. It's got a lot to like. And again, you're already finding you have a nice close circulation center right here, and then you have stronger winds well away from the center, but those will begin to wrap up and kind of consolidate with time. Again, the European GFS show this evolution pretty well. The 12Z is not out just yet, so we're looking at last night's model run, sort of initializing decently, but basically the European didn't think this was going to form until tonight, but this shows the general idea. You have a vortex form up, and then the Euro takes us into southern Mexico, or southern Texas rather, and then has a little weaker storm kind of crawling the coastline. Or again with the GFS, kind of turns early. Notice how the turn is away from the coast as it approaches, and then you have a stronger storm moving up towards the Houston area, where potential for a hurricane impact is definitely not off the table. I don't think this can go. This probably doesn't go major, but a category 1 or 2 hurricane definitely not out of the question. HWRF shows this as well. This HWRF model comes up, and then again it sort of grazes the coast before a landfall somewhere around Corpus Christi. We are talking about winds pretty decent with a central pressure on this model about 980 93 millibars. Pretty solid storm coming for the coast there on the HWRF model, and this will kind of go back and forth. But again, rainfall, the biggest threat to come. Widespread rainfall totals. The south central Texas talking about anywhere from 2 to 6 inches of rain. And as you get towards Houston and the northern Texas coast, and then western Louisiana, you're talking about rainfall totals 8 to 12 inches. And these pockets where you see these bright whites and purples indicating that rainfall locally could be well north of 12 inches in some cases. And these sort of storms are very notorious for being significant rainfall makers. The other thing I want you to look at is the actual track of the storm regarding the second part of this forecast cone. Look at where I just circled. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The storm moves basically from Houston to the northern Louisiana border with Texas in 4 days. We're talking about another stalling situation. This rounds the corner of a high pressure. The high pressure collapses, and then the storm pretty much starts drifting as we get into later in the forecast period. And this is going to produce a heavy rainfall event, especially near the coast, where all that you have a low pressure here. You have air moving from the south to the north. You've got tropical moisture streaming in off the coast with a low pressure like this, and it's just going to churn up that ocean and pull moisture in for days. And we're talking about another pretty significant flooding situation. I would not be surprised if these rainfall totals here went up. I mean, I really wouldn't be. You see, as I go into Friday and Saturday and even next Sunday, a week from today, some of these totals have come up, and I wouldn't be surprised if they came up a little bit further north. But overall, guys, it's supposed to be a quick update this morning. That's the latest. Again, Nicolas is going to steadily strengthen. The ultimate intensity is going to depend exactly how far it stays offshore. But regardless if this thing stays a tropical depression or storm or a hurricane, whatever it is, a big, big rainfall threat is coming for the Texas Louisiana coastlines and could be a significant threat to this region. So please take it seriously. Please be preparing. And I would still be preparing for the potential for a category 1 or 2 hurricane tonight and hope that it stays on the weaker side. Hope it kind of gets to land sooner and gets to spin down, and then we just have to worry about the rainfall. We don't have to also compound that with a wind and surge threat, especially into a region like Houston. So that's what I got for you guys this morning. We'll be back tonight with a full tropical update. So until then, stay safe. Thanks for watching and have a good one.